Former President Barack Obama is issuing a stark warning about the state of today's politics. Speaking before the Economic Club of Chicago, President Obama cautioned against the recent groundswell of nationalism and even referenced Nazi Germany just to emphasize the danger of becoming complacent and disengaged. CNN obtained this cell phone video of his remarks.
We don't have time to go into detail about everything people should do. But I wouldn't underestimate the very simple act of being engaged, paying attention, and speaking out. I mean, typically that's what it comes down to in a democracy. And I do think because we've been so wealthy and so successful that we get complacent and assume that things continue the way they have been, just automatically, and they don't. You have to tend to this garden of democracy, otherwise things can fall apart fairly quickly. And we've seen societies where that happens, right? Now, presumably there was a ballroom here in Vienna in the late 1920s or 30s that looked pretty sophisticated and seemed as if, with the music and the art and the literature and the science that was emerging, it would continue into perpetuity. And then 60 million people died. And an entire world was plunged into chaos. So, you gotta pay attention and vote.
While Obama did not name President Trump directly, critics are already calling this a veiled attack against his successor. Joshua and Ben are back with me. Ben Ferguson, when you first heard that audio, what were you thinking?
I think it was sad that the former president of the United States of America would go to the point to somehow fearmonger people into saying that our democracy is in such a bad shape right now just because he doesn't agree with the political opinions of Donald Trump, that the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to have 60 million dead people. The Holocaust was a horrific thing in history that let's hope will never, ever come close to being matched anywhere in the world. But for political purposes, to then use it to your advantage just because you don't like who's in the Oval Office, I think is probably a low point, I think, in Barack Obama's career. I've never seen him say something like this or to go to this level. This is internet conspiracy type crazy talk, and it's unfortunate that it came from Barack Obama, especially knowing just how horrific the Holocaust was. You don't make comparisons this way ever, especially for a political point, to attack someone politically because you don't like them or their policies. That's sad and sick.
The conservative media having a field day with this, jumping to headlines like Obama compares Trump to Hitler. Joshua, did he think this one through?
Well, I would say there are some folks being political here, and it certainly was not President Obama. We must have watched a different video, because I saw a very thoughtful statement from a statesman who loves his country and also is a student of history and says we have to keep watch. The reality is those things did happen. They happened less than 100 years ago in this very world, and we need to make sure that they never happen again. And you know what? We do have certain threats to our democracy right now. Just was it last week or a week before, the President of the United States is using his Twitter platform to retweet and share an abjectly false video from a right-wing group in the United Kingdom. Back in August, the President of the United States is looking at a march of white nationalists in Charlottesville and saying that there are good people on both sides. There's reason to be worried here. And I think the President, he didn't speak directly to Donald Trump. He certainly wasn't being partisan or political, but he's saying we have to keep
Come on,
watch.
let's be intellectually honest here. It was very clear that he was implying that this was towards the current administration. You're a smart guy. let's not act like that wasn't directed towards Donald Trump. Own it, okay? If Barack Obama is going to say this and it's going to represent the Democratic Party, at least be intellectually honest enough. It's clear that he was talking about the current administration and Donald Trump and trying to make a comparison. That's just disingenuous to even imply that somebody wasn't talking about this administration. It's clear that he was, and you just said at the beginning, these were thoughtful words and well planned out by Barack Obama. Do you really think he was being vague and not talking about this administration while moments ago you just described these words as well planned and thoughtful? Come on.
You know, I think it's fascinating that, you know, from our friends on the other side, that we start using words like disingenuous and questioning other people's motives right away. The president was talking about history.
So who was he implying? Who is he talking about here? Tell me another group.
If you wouldn't mind letting me finish. He was leaving it up to...
finish, but tell me who he was talking to then. Okay. If you're saying it wasn't towards Donald Trump,
he was leaving it up to Americans like you and I to reach our conclusions. And I'm concluding that Donald Trump, through his actions, retweeting a right-wing fascist in the UK that are allies.
But you still clearly
I'm
can't
concluding that these are threats to our democracy that are occurring in this country today, and that's something that I'm concerned about. The president is not going to wade into partisan politics unless he has a very specific reason, but it's upon us as Americans to be mindful and watchful of these threats to our democracy. And unfortunately, Donald Trump keeps presenting us with those threats.
You just gave 3 examples
connecting. I'm happy to give more.
The caution, the everyone pay attention that Barack Obama just made directly to Donald Trump, but then you say 2 sentences earlier that this was not directed towards Donald Trump or the administration.
Because I'm not the president of the United States. Because I'm not the president. So
so you're connecting it, but no one else should. Got it. Okay.
No, you can. I can, but he wasn't. I can, as a citizen of this country, listen to the president's words and make my own conclusions. You've obviously made some conclusions
and your conclusion
as well.
is that it was against Donald Trump, but you want people to believe it wasn't against Donald Trump when it came from Barack Obama.
Okay, guys.